missing the postseason by a game 2 years in a row was really hard, and there was fuel there. But it was interesting to hear them talk about this year specifically. Clinching the division was a big deal, but very much to a guy, this was just the start of things. They really do have a belief they have a team that can make a deep run happen. And I think they're right to believe that. I think the American League's wide open, and you look at the Mariners, they're just really balanced. I think you like where the rotation is at right now, especially with a healthy Wu. I think you like the back end of the bullpen, and I think you like where their offense is at.
The Seattle Mariners are in the postseason, finishing a 90-win regular season, taking first place in the AL West for the first time since 2001. The Mariners are about to have some playoff baseball in Seattle this coming Saturday for the first time since 2022 and the second time since back in 2001. Currently, the Mariners matchup for Saturday is yet to be determined. It'll either be the Cleveland Guardians or the Detroit Tigers coming into Seattle. And the first pitch of that game on Saturday is still to be determined. If the Red Sox beat the Yankees, start time for the Mariners game will be 1:08 Pacific. And if the Yankees advance, then it'll be 5:38 Pacific. Today I have on Gary Hill Jr., many of you know him, who is a radio broadcaster for the Seattle Mariners, to talk through the Mariners season as a whole, to talk through this upcoming playoff series against the Guardians or the Tigers, the current state of this roster, Cal Raleigh's historic season, Julio's historic start to his career, how the Mariners are prepping this week for the ALDS, and much more. For more episodes like this, make sure to like and subscribe to the Couch GM on YouTube. Follow me across social media platforms for short form videos, and you can listen to the audio only version on whichever platform you prefer. And before we get into it, make sure to check out baseballism.com to get geared up for the Mariners postseason. They have tons of great Mariners gear, including their Griffey collection. Make sure to use code CouchGM-15 for 15% off your order. And if you or someone you know is thinking of buying, selling, or refinancing a property on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, or Arizona, make sure to reach out to myself, Connor Webb, the Couch GM, as I'm actually a mortgage lender when I'm not making these sports videos, and it's my goal to assist as many sports fans and athletes get into the home of their dreams. Interest rates are trending in the right direction for us right now. It's a great time to buy, and if you're somewhere in the 7% with your mortgage, reach out. It might make sense to look at a refinance. I'll have a link in the description of this video if you'd like to reach out and connect. And now let's get into the episode with Gary. Gary, how we doing? A bit of an interesting week this week. No actual game for close to a week. Coming up this Saturday is going to be game one of the ALDS hosted in Seattle. The Mariners this year captured their fourth division title in club history, the first since 2001. They are now in the playoffs again for the first time since 2022, just the second time over the past 25 essentially years. How are you doing this week?
It's been a great week. It's been amazing. It has been just a thrill ride. You think back, I keep thinking back to September 5th. There was a day the Mariners were 3.5 behind the Astros in the division. They were just holding off the Rangers and the Royals, a half game ahead of Texas, 1 game ahead of the Royals, and then just the thrill ride the rest of September, winning 17 of 18. And you look up and the Mariners have put the division away in the last series. There was no doubts. While everyone else in the American League was fighting it out, the Mariners were just kind of hanging out in that final series. And to me, it felt like it all came together in that game against Colorado where the Mariners won the division. Cal hits 59 and 60. Just one of the greatest days in the stadium we have ever seen. And here we are, just waiting to see who the Mariners are going to play next. And it has just been, you couldn't have mapped out, I think, a better September for the Mariners. It's been incredible.
So you were obviously here during the 2022 ALDS game in Seattle, the first playoff game in 21 years. I was at that game as well. Can you compare it to this past week, maybe what the energy in the stadium and the city has felt like? Obviously, first winning, clinching playoffs, the next day clinching the division. Cal Raleigh hitting 60 home runs, doing his thing. What does the energy feel like in those games compared to that playoff game? And then obviously it's going to be amplified this weekend.
Yeah, it is going to be amplified. The energy has been amazing. It's been incredible. The building has been unbelievable. Yeah, I already referenced that Cal game and the division clinch. The building was electric. I mean, it felt like it was shaking at times, so loud. And it really felt like, for me, a preview of what's to come for the playoffs. And I think back, I think back to the last playoff run, and what's really too bad about that run, it was the wild card series, so it was in Toronto. It was an amazing series, but Mariner fans didn't get to enjoy it firsthand. And by the time the playoffs rolled around to Seattle that year, the Mariners were down 0-2 to the Astros.
Right.
It didn't change how electric the building was. The building was amazing for all 18 innings. It was an exhausting day, I think, for all fans. But this is a different story because this is going to be game one of the series. This is going to be first pitch of the series. Mariner fans are going to experience it right away and have an influence on it right away. Mariners aren't down 0-2. This is the start of things, trying to get to the American League Championship Series. So I do think that changes the vibe a little bit in the building, and just the pure excitement on where this thing could lead. Hey, we all know what the playoffs are like. Anyone can beat anyone in a 5-game series. This is not going to be easy, no matter who they play, no matter who they match up with. But the excitement level on where this could go, I think, is different than it's ever been.
Absolutely. For those of you listening, we're recording the morning of October 2nd. So there's 3 elimination games that are happening later today. We're still waiting to see if it's going to be the Red Sox or the Yankees in the other part of the bracket, which will determine the start time of the game this coming Saturday. It's either going to be a 1:08 p.m. Pacific start time if the Red Sox advance, or a 5:38 Pacific start time if the Yankees advance. And then also on our side of the bracket, we're still waiting to see if it's going to be Cleveland or Detroit that will be facing Saturday. So I guess, what are your thoughts on the bye compared to having to play in the wild card game? Obviously, we talked off air. Let's hope that today's Cleveland Detroit game goes 16 innings
Yes.
so that they can deplete all of their assets heading into Seattle. What does this week off mean?
So I'm all for the bye. To me, it's not even a debate, and mostly because you're not going to lose in the first round if you don't play in the first round, right? I mean, to me, it's as simple as that. Because as we know, in a 3-game series, and I think we've watched it all play out, literally anything can happen in a 3-game series. And so I think it's better if you just don't have to play in that 3-game series at all. And, we referenced that series against the Blue Jays already. Think about that series from the Blue Jays perspective. They were hosting against the Mariners. That was a team that had expectations of going to the World Series. That's what they believed. And in 2 games, they were done. Castillo shoves in a game, and the Mariners have this ridiculous monster comeback, and that was it. Their playoff run is over. And in a lot of ways, until this year, the Blue Jays were still reeling from that series as an organization, and they've had a great year this year and a number 1 seed, so things have changed for them this year. But I want no part of that if you can avoid it, just because you have no idea what's going to happen in 3 games. So that's first. Secondly, the resources that you have to burn through to win a 3-game series. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen with Cleveland and Detroit today. I mean, there's a chance both of them throw 7 different guys and maybe some starters in the mix. What if it does go extra innings? Like, it could take a lot, and you have to. Like, you have no choice but to burn everyone possible to try and win the game, because if you lose, you go home. It doesn't matter anyway, and you deal with tomorrow. So I'm a big fan of the bye for that reason. The challenges are obvious when you have a week off. I think especially from the hitter's perspective, keeping that rhythm. And I think that's the most difficult thing, because you are going to be playing a team that has been playing high-intense games, has just won a series, and is a good team. So you add all those things in, and it is a challenge. I also think you get, when you have some guys beat up, and the Mariners have had some guys beat up, it gives them a chance to get a few days to get ready for a series. So I think that's beneficial too. But for me, the challenge is the hitters, because it's an everyday game. This is really unique. There's only one time during the season you get this, and that's with the All-Star break, where you have more than 1 day off in a row. So it is a challenge, but I think it's a challenge that's worth it.
So speaking to the Mariners' plans this week to stay fresh, they had, it sounds like, a full day and a half off. Then they had BP. Yesterday was the first of two scrimmages that are going to be happening. Ichiro starting in right field. We'll get into the rest of the taxi squad that was called up as well. But what did that inter squad game look like yesterday? Did they go a full 9 innings? How was that broken down? And then the plans for the rest of this week.
Yeah, it was a 6 inning game, and they had pitchers assigned by innings, and then they made sure that pitchers didn't throw too many pitches in an inning, that sort of thing. And sometimes they played some situational baseball where they put a runner at second, but basically they just played it like it was a game. They pumped in noise, the fans were there, the music. They tried to simulate it as much as possible. They opened the roof to try and get the shadows involved because depending on the game time, shadows could be an issue as well. So they did some simulation. There were some really cool moments. Like it was fun to see Cal Raleigh hit a home run. Gino hitting a home run was great. Like Cal against Matt Brash, that kind of matchup, which you don't see. It was really fun. Yeah. The highlight for me, though, you mentioned Ichiro playing right field, and at some point during the game, he made a catch. And then he flashed the no fly to Julio, which was pretty great. I mean, the fact Ichiro was playing right field in the game was pretty cool. So it was fun, and the crowd was into it. There's like they capped it at 5,000, and they're all kind of behind home plate, and they're super loud and into it. So, I give them credit for trying to make this happen. Kevin Seitzer, who was with Atlanta, they had a number of years of playoffs in a row. And this is one thing they had done that they thought had really worked, is have some simulated games. And so they kind of stole the idea from Seitzer and the Braves. And, I guess a couple other teams are doing it too. It sounds like the Phillies are doing a similar thing and the Blue Jays are doing a similar thing. So, as Dan Wilson pointed out, there's no magic formula. Like, no one has had the perfect answer to this. So everyone's just trying to do the best they can with it. And just watching it play out, it's like, yeah, this makes sense to do it this way when you're facing real major league pitchers from the hitter's perspective in as close to a game situation as you can get. They're wearing the uniforms, they're on the field, that whole thing.
So was there any starting pitcher that pitched in that game, or were they all out of the bullpen?
All out of the bullpen, all relievers. Okay. So and then, the guy that went the longest was Hancock, who has been a starter for a lot of the year, but pitching out of the bullpen.
And he's been going multiple innings in a few of his outings as well. So that makes sense. I guess speaking to the taxi squad. So my understanding is that the taxi squad is built up of, 11 players? And
11 or 12, yeah.
And it's for emergencies. Like if someone were to get hurt, then they could be, because they have to come up with a 26-man roster for each of the series. Mm-hmm. And so if one of those guys gets injured, then one of the guys from the taxi squad can be called up. Walk me through that list. I mean, obviously Colt Emerson, the top prospect, he started at High A Everett this year, goes to Arkansas, moves to Tacoma due to some injuries in those ranks, but he's performed all year. And now he gets to cleat up with these guys in the postseason. I mean, I don't know if you've been able to talk with him or kind of see what his interactions have looked like.
I haven't talked to him yet. I thought yesterday was pretty amazing from his perspective. A 20-year-old getting his first taste of T-Mobile Park, and Ichiro's playing right field on his same team, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, the basic the idea of the taxi squad is to be ready for anything, because you need coverage in case of anything. That's why you see a catcher on there. That's why you see middle infielders, corner infielders, outfielders. Like, you never know what's going to happen during the postseason. So this is a group that's actually been in Arizona after the minor league season, getting ready and staying sharp. And they'll do the same sort of thing once the playoffs start. Like, this group will migrate back to Arizona and stay ready. They'll take a couple with them just in case something happens during a series and you need someone right now. But the rest of the group will be going just in case. Now, I don't know what the likelihood of Emerson actually ending up on the postseason roster is. Part of this feels like, well, he's on the taxi squad, so there is a chance. But I feel like a lot of this too is just to benefit him right now. Just give him this experience. He's going to be a large part of the Mariners' future going forward. So I feel like any sort of experience like this, just to be around a team getting ready for the postseason, being around these veterans on these couple of days, I think is a really good thing for him. And I think that's really beneficial, even though the odds of him actually ending up on the postseason roster, like, I don't know what the odds are, but I just think it's really helpful for him. And you look at the rest of the roster, and you can see kind of what they're trying to do. Like, they have a couple relievers. They have a few relievers, right, just in case. They have a backup catcher there, just in case they lose one of the three. And they have a couple of speedsters. Like, Samad Taylor is a guy that I find really interesting. And I think when you talk about back end of the playoff roster construction, like, he's someone that's really interesting to me, because you never know when you might need to steal a base or when you might need to get that big run. So when you look at the Mariners roster, at least going into the postseason, it's all basically set. Like, they have their roster, they have their guys. To me, there aren't a lot of questions. A couple of questions are, do you not carry as many pitchers in this first round because it's a 5-game series? Do you add a runner like Samad Taylor? Do you take the third catcher like Harry Ford? So to me, at the back end of the roster, those are the big discussions that I'm thinking about.
Absolutely. And then, so looking at the taxi squad, there's 7 arms that are on that squad, and then 4 position players. So that kind of speaks to the breakdown. And then obviously, as we move into the postseason, there's likely going to be a starting pitcher that has moved to the bullpen at some point, but a lot of that is dependent on the health of Brian Wu. We saw that he left his last start in Houston. He ended up having his last start skipped this past week. What can you speak to the health of Brian Wu? I know that he's hoping to throw off of a mound today. You would think that he would be the game 1 starter in the ALDS, but now with where things are at, then also talk through your thoughts on how this rotation might be slotted out.
Yeah, the injury was such a bummer too. He was carving in Houston in that start, just really dominating. He looked great. As good a season he's had, that's probably the best he's looked all year, especially given the circumstances, right? And how much that series meant. He looked so good. And I don't think there's any question, had he just rolled through that start and been great and no injury, like, he would have been the game 1 starter. I don't think that's the case now because of this. And I think part of it is this gives him a few extra days. So I think they would like to pitch him at some point in this series, if they need to. Like, maybe they win the first 3 games, they sweep the series, and then he doesn't pitch until the next series. Like, I don't know how that's going to fall, but I don't anticipate him pitching at least the first 2 games for sure. And of course, part of it depends on how he feels out of the bullpen. It sounds like things are progressing well for him, which is huge for the Mariners, clearly. The thing that benefits the Mariners is their starting pitching depth. I think they feel really good about that. So I don't think they feel the need to push him. Right. Like, I think you feel good about a Kirby Gilbert 1-2 punch in the first 2 games of the series against either Cleveland or Detroit. I think you feel really good about that. And I think that puts you in a spot where you don't have to push Wu and make sure he's ready to go when you need him. So I don't know how it's going to fall, like the first 3 games, but I'm thinking Kirby and Gilbert the first 2. That's just kind of how I'm kind of reading the situation. Yeah. And I really like that, because I think Kirby's been great the last couple of starts. I think he's looked phenomenal. And I think, this gets back to having the 2 seed and having home field. Both Gilbert and Kirby have been great at home. And I think you like the matchups, whether it's Cleveland or Detroit. I think you like the matchups of those 2 at home against either of those 2 offenses. I think it lines up pretty well for the Mariners.
Yeah, I agree with that. Having Kirby Gilbert, obviously Brian Wu would have been a great one, but that kind of just obviously speaks to the depth, like having Castillo, the veteran, as the number 3 or 4 guy in the rotation now in the postseason, as opposed to in the 2022 season. He was the guy coming out. And then also speaking to Bryce Miller, he's there. He's able to stay stretched out if they do need him. He has a majority of his time in college was actually as a reliever. He transitioned to a starter later in his career. So he's got that experience, and his stuff will tick up if he comes out of the bullpen as well. I guess speaking to who we might face, the Tigers or the Guardians, is there a team that you're hoping to see on Saturday?
So let me say this. The series will not be easy no matter who they face. Both teams are playoff teams. Both teams are good, and anything can happen in a 5-game series. So I'll say that right out of the gates. The thing that if I had to pick, I would pick Cleveland simply because of Skubal.
Yeah.
Like Skubal to me is the X factor, because depending on what happens today, you could see Skubal twice in a 5-game series. And they've beaten Skubal this year,
Right.
but either you're going to have to beat Skubal or you're going to have to win every other game that he doesn't pitch. He's just one of the best pitchers in the game. I mean, that's what it is.
Right.
He's simply one of the best pitchers in the game. And as we saw already in the postseason, he can go out and dominate, put a team on his back, and take you to victory. And not that the Mariners can't beat him, but that's, to me, that's the separation between the two teams. There's actually, I think there's some similarities between the two teams. And Cleveland has excellent pitching as well. Williams is really good, and he pitched great against the Mariners earlier this year. So it's not going to be easy, but that's kind of how I see the series. I actually think the Mariners match up pretty well with either side, but the Skubal to me is just a game changer.
Yeah, I think he went 7 7 1/3, 14 strikeouts in the first game of the wild card, and with where he's currently slotted, he could it's likely game 2 of the ALDS that he would be pitching in, and then of course again, if you need the extended series, he could go there. Yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup no matter what. But kind of speaking to the home field advantage, it is big. The Mariners this year are 51-30 at T-Mobile Park. They're 39-42 on the road. So having those first 2 games in Seattle is going to be big time.
Yeah, I think so. They've played so well at home. Their pitching has been dominant at home too. And you're talking about Detroit and Cleveland, especially, Cleveland's offense, even during this stretch, has still not been great. It's really been their pitching that's led them. And Detroit's offense hasn't been the same. Like Riley Green and Carpenter, a couple of scary left-handed bats that have done some damage against the Mariners. They've both struggled as of late. I was surprised, though, even that Riley Green was lifted for a pinch hitter in game 2 late against Cleveland. Like, he's their guy. He's their all-star. And he was lifted with a lefty on the mound, which is kind of surprising to me, but maybe it gives you an idea of where he's at right now, too. So I just like the matchups at home. And the Mariners have played so well at home, not only on the season, but down the stretch. I was just looking at it. I think in games where Naylor played at home, once he was traded over, I think the Mariners like 22-4 in games that he played in at home, which is unbelievable. Like, no wonder he's having the greatest time in the world, because they just never lose at home since he's been a Mariner. So it's been a super fun stretch, and you just hope they can recapture that magic at home. I always feel like in the postseason, really for anyone, whether you're flying high going in or whether you're struggling beyond belief going in, I just feel like it's a clean slate and everything starts over. Like, momentum doesn't carry over. I think it starts fresh with the very first pitch of whatever series it is. And the Tigers are a great example. Like, you couldn't have stumbled worse going into the postseason, and they won game 1, right? Mm-hmm. And they have a chance to win this series and move on. So postseason is an entire different animal, and it all starts fresh with that first pitch.
Absolutely. Now, speaking to some of the individual players on this team, you mentioned Josh Naylor. Let's start there. He was acquired at the deadline. He's been absolutely electric. He's just the 4th first baseman to record a 20-plus home run and 30-plus stolen base season. He's been in 54 games with the Mariners, hitting .299, 32 runs, 10 doubles, 9 home runs, 13 RBIs, getting on base at a 341 clip and slugging .490. He's finished 19 for 19 in stolen base attempts with the Mariners, the only player in team history to record at least 10 stolen bases in a season without being caught. I mean, what has Josh Naylor meant to this roster?
Everything. He's been a game changer, and you just laid out the production, which has been phenomenal. I would also say that a couple things. One is you couple that, you look at that production, and then look at what they were getting in that position before. So
Right.
it's even more impactful. And also, I feel like he has brought balance to the lineup. He's the perfect fit for what they already had and how he fits into the lineup. Like you think about when they face right-handed pitching, he's cleaning up. But not only being left-handed, but the kind of hitter he is. He gives you really good plate appearances. He takes a lot of pitches. He can spray the ball around a little bit, and he has some pop as well. It just really fits with all the power kind of surrounding him. And I just think that once he was inserted into the middle of the lineup, it's like the the lineup really came together.
Yeah.
Between the top of the lineup and then Gino, you have a 50 home run guy essentially batting sixth in the lineup as well with that kind of power threat. And when I was in Houston, some of the conversation there from some Astros folks is you look at the two lineups side by side, and they're pointing out that Christian Walker, it's been a struggle this year for Walker. He hasn't had a great year, batting sixth for Houston, and then you have Gino batting sixth for the Mariners, a guy that's closing in on 50 home runs this year, and they were just kind of, I don't know, I guess in awe of the difference just when you put it side by side between one offense and the next. And I just think Naylor has put together the whole thing offensively, just really been the glue to how this has come together.
Now there's the production part of it, and then there's the human being part of it with Josh Naylor. He seems like a one of a kind type guy. He seems, from when I was seeing him on the Guardians and the Diamondbacks, I wasn't a huge fan because he just is so intense. And typically it's not going in the Mariners' favor when he's up.
Mm-hmm.
But now that he's on the actual roster, like his intensity, his emotion that he plays with, I don't know if you've noticed his shoe swag. He's got like a different pair of custom shoes every game. I mean, talk to the clubhouse guy and what that factor has been.
Yeah, I am always a fan of, and I think any good team needs a mix of personalities. I think it never works when you have all of the same type of personality, either way, to the extremes. And I think I think grit is how I think about Naylor. Like he's a gritty guy. He's an intense guy. And I think adding that to the mix has been really beneficial. And it's funny, you point out looking at him from as an opponent, he's the kind of guy that you get annoyed with, right? If you're a fan of a team and you're watching, it's like that guy. But when he's on your team, I love that guy. He's that kind of player, and he has brought that next level of intensity. I mean, he won't even talk to his brother on the same field, right? So you're right. I mean, it's not only the production, but it's been that as well that I think has been hugely beneficial. And it's also been fun. Like he's really enjoyed his short time in Seattle so far. And part of that is, winning is super fun, and this has been an especially good run that he's been a part of. But I think he's really enjoyed the whole environment. Like I think he's loved T-Mobile Park. I think he's loved the crowd. He's been fully embraced by this fan base. It happened fast, and I think he's felt that as well. So there's just a lot of good synergy going on between Naylor and the fan base in the city.
And dare I say that he's the perfect guy, both position-wise, production, personality. He's approaching his first free agency, off season. He's a prime candidate to extend if the Mariners are willing to pull it out.
Yeah, Justin and Jerry have talked about this as well. They seem very interested in that, and I imagine Naylor will be interested in that as well. It's going to be. I'm curious to see how it plays out. Like I think the fit is perfect, and part of it is Naylor is a unique profile for a first baseman, and he fits the Mariners really well because they don't need a slugging first baseman in that 30 home runs or something like that. I know Naylor's done that before, but that's not necessarily something you would count on. There are teams when they look for a first baseman that they will need that next level home run pop. For the Mariners, though, when you get that amount of home runs for your catcher, for example, you can kind of bank on what you're getting from center field in terms of 30 plus. They don't necessarily need that huge power from first base. So his profile fits the Mariners so well. And I think that might cut down on the number of suitors. And also kind of look around at the different teams that are qualified for the postseason this year and kind of look at their first base, where they're at in terms of first base. And it doesn't seem like there'll be a ton of teams that will be in the postseason mix that even need a first baseman at this point. Long story short, I just feel like the match is really great for both sides. And I don't know how likely or not it is to happen this offseason, but it just feels like a really good marriage between the two. And I hope it does, because I think it'd be great if he came back for the next couple of years, because the Mariners have a need at first base. And it's the kind of thing where there's no one waiting in the wings at this point. So they're going to have to go outside. Feels like they're going to have to go outside the organization one way or another to find that first baseman. And we've already seen Naylor as a great fit in that spot.
They traded their potential first baseman of the future in Tyler Locklear at the deadline to bring in, I forget if it was a Josh Naylor trade specifically. I think it was. But you look at Josh Naylor's production, he doesn't need to be a home run guy. You look at the past 3 seasons. Back in 2023, he batted 308, 354 on base, and 843 OPS, just 17 home runs. 2024, it looked like he seeked out the power, and that it was a detriment to the rest of his game. So a 243 average. He had 31 home runs that year, 776 OPS, and now back to this year, he's really focusing on the batting average or the contact ability,
which is perfect for what the Mariners need. Like, that skill set is ideal with especially the Mariners' current lineup. Like, that is it. That's exactly what they need. Is they just need him to be him, because it's working great.
How about the Dominic Canzone breakout season? 82 games, a 300 average, which leads the team, an 840 OPS. That's a 142 OPS plus, 42% above league average with the bat, 11 home runs. I mean, what has the breakout of Dominic Canzone been?
It's been remarkable, and it's one I don't think a lot of people saw coming. I mean, think back to, he was an early cut in spring training. It didn't feel like, he wasn't the first one called up. I think he was called up at one point and then sent right back down. It didn't feel like he was as much on the radar as he had been the last couple of years. And then you think about, where the outfield was at. You had Robles and Raley and Rosarena and Julio. Like, where was he going to break in? Where was he going to play, right? And so you kind of look at, this easily could have been a season where he just spent the entire year in AAA and we never heard from him, right? But he got the opportunity, and man, did he take advantage of that opportunity, thanks to a couple of injuries between Robles and Raley. And he grabbed it and he ran with it. He was great for the Mariners this year. And now you think about that first lineup, depending on if they face a righty or lefty, like, I anticipate him being in there as the DH in game 1 of the postseason, right? Like, who would have had that? But he earned it, because before, as a hitter, it was strictly power. Like, we saw that massive power. Like, he would get into a ball and he would crank it. But he expanded on that this year. And you mentioned the batting average. He turned into a really good hitter this year. And he even had plate appearances against lefties and had some success against lefties, but he just mashed righties. And it's really exciting where this came from. And give him credit. Like, he went to Tacoma and he worked. And it's funny because, he had a great year in the PCL. I never can trust PCL numbers, so I never know what to expect when a guy comes up. Like, I never assume that, hey, they mashed in Tacoma, they mashed in the PCL. I don't know how that's going to translate. I don't know what that means. And it translated beautifully for Dom Canzone this year. I feel so happy for him and what he was able to do this year. And he's a big part of the team. And truthfully, whenever you have a year like this, whenever you punch your ticket to the postseason or make a postseason run, you have to have stories like this. There's always going to be guys that you did not expect, guys you did not see coming that contribute in a big way. And Dom Canzone's one. Bizzardo for me is another out of the bullpen. Just a couple of guys where you look back and say, man, if they didn't do what they did, where would we be? And Dom Canzone's one of those guys.
Has Dom commented on what changes he made or what turned into this production that we're now seeing?
Yeah, he's talked about working with Sean O'Malley in Tacoma. Not so much on specifics, but he credited him with his work down there. I think it's a good question. I can't remember the exact. I don't think it was all mechanical. I can't remember. I don't want to quote because I won't get it right.
Yeah.
But he's talked about
mindset.
Yeah, he's talked about his time in Tacoma being a game changer for him. And it has. He's looked like a completely different hitter. Like the profiles look completely different. And it's not like he's sacrificed the power either, which I think is the most impressive part. I guess when I look at his season so far is, the batting average has been excellent and something I didn't anticipate, but career high in home runs as well. Like the power has still been there, yet he's been a completely different hitter. So that's what's exciting to me. And I'm curious to see where it goes for him.
Yeah, when he was first brought over from the Diamondbacks, we did see that pop. Like when he did get into it, he's hitting it off of the Hit It Here Cafe. You look at his baseball savant, his expected batting average is at a 302. And then the entire top of that chart is all littered in red with barrel rate, average exit velocity, hard hit rate, launch angle, sweet spot. He's making, he has the batting average and he's making the contact, but it's also the quality contact that's leading to the serious production. And looking at his past two seasons, 220 average, 196 average in his time in Seattle. And then again, now this year, 300. So hoping we can keep it up throughout the playoffs and see a lot of those throughout the stadium. Yes. I was there for a game in Seattle and he hit a double or something and everyone's just doing that, like the Italian song, whatever it is. It was amazing.
It's a good lesson too, for really, for any player, you never know when it can click. Right. And we see it all the time. And Cal Raleigh is the perfect example. He struggled mightily when he first came up to the majors, and look what he is now. And sometimes it takes a time or two or three to figure it out, to make that adjustment. And for some guys, they can never make the adjustment. It doesn't happen, but it does happen. We see it all the time. I mean, there's nothing harder in sports than hitting a baseball. And sometimes it just takes time to figure it out. And maybe Dom has figured it out at this point.
And it seems that this entire Mariners lineup has figured it out. This year, they were tied for second best in weighted runs created plus with a 113 weighted runs created plus, tied with the Dodgers. Coming into the season, you were not expecting the offense to be the standout. I mean, obviously, Cal Raleigh having an absolutely historic season played into that. Julio Rodriguez became the first player in MLB history to register 20-plus home runs, 20-plus stolen bases in each of his first four seasons. Completely down the list, you look at various points in the season, the entire starting nine was above league average at the plate. I mean, let's just highlight Cal Raleigh for a moment. Of course, we have to. He's broken essentially every record. MLB, Mariners home run records, switch hitting catcher in general. It's like his ranks versus catchers in home runs from the right side of the plate and then the left side of the plate. He's up there. I mean, what has it been to sit up there in the press box to watch Cal Raleigh do what he does on a daily basis?
I mean, it's been a storybook season. It's been unbelievable. He was at a point where I was expecting a home run every time he came to the plate because that's what he was doing. And yet
sometimes multiple a game.
Yeah. And yet being surprised and amazed every time he did it. Like I was living in a world where I was expecting it and still amazed. We have never seen anything like this before, especially from a catcher. And I feel like that he may have put the home run record for catchers to bed for good. It's hard to imagine another catcher ever reaching 60 home runs. I grew up a Mariners fan, and so I was always so thankful that I watched Ken Griffey Jr. as a kid and got to watch everything that he did because he was truly amazing and he transcended the game. And it really, man, when he passed Ken Griffey Jr. in a season, like I never thought a Mariner would ever pass Ken Griffey Jr. for home runs in a season. When Cal did it, it's like, wow, he passed Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, of course, he passed Bench and Mantle and everyone else. But for me, watching Griffey and just being a fan of Griffey and watching Cal do it is just incredible. And now I think about this generation of Mariner fans that just got to watch Cal do this. And, we spent all this time comparing Cal to Bench and to Griffey and to everyone else. And now moving forward for all time, especially with catchers and switch hitters, Cal's going to be the one that everyone is comparing to. Cal's going to be the benchmark for switch hitters and for catchers. And just think about that for the next years and decades, and who knows how long. Like Cal Raleigh is going to be the measuring stick for all these guys moving forward, which I think is just, it's amazing. I love it for Mariners fans, and I love it for him. His journey it's remarkable. I'm putting together kind of a retrospective on Cal, and drafted in the third round, right? And I've had discussions now since with people inside the Mariners and outside the Mariners about that pick, and there were you look back at the scouting reports and the thoughts about Cal at the time, and we can all laugh at it now because it's funny, but there were questions about could he stay at catcher because of his defense. There were questions whether he's going to hit enough, right? Which is all funny to think about now, but these were all questions surrounding Cal at the time, and he knew it too because I've asked him about it, and he's talked about it helped fuel the whole thing through the minors. And now to look at what has happened since and where he has gone, it's just incredible. Not to mention he's going to be a Mariner for a long time now. The extension is part of the storybook season. He's just a great guy on top of everything else. Like everything Mariner fans see about him, that's who he is, right? And he's the easiest guy to root for in the world. So the whole thing has come together in just this magical story. And I just hope he hits like 20 more in the playoffs.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Because that would be the cherry on top of everything else and what has been truly an historical season that it's hard to imagine a catcher ever doing this again.
Let alone really anybody doing it again. I mean, This is not just for a catcher, for player in general. This is completely historic. And as you described, talking through how this all came to be, it's like last year he ends up working up to becoming the best defensive player in the American League. He won the Platinum Glove. He signs the extension in spring training, and then he just starts going off on this tear. He ends up winning the home run derby. He ends up setting every record essentially under the sun. And in my time talking with him on the sidelines, the most humble guy, the most hardworking guy out there. There was one game that I ended up talking with him, and he's walking out from the bullpen pregame. This is like an hour or two before the game. He is drenched in sweat. Like he is putting in so much work before the game to catch those guys out there and to get his work in. He's carrying this bag with all the gear, and he's just going about his work. He's just a blue collar guy, puts in the work, and he deserves it as much as anybody.
Yeah, it's not by accident. It's the hard work, a small thing, but one of the 1,000 things that has led into this. Like last year, heading into his Platinum Glove season, he wanted to get better defensively and specifically on framing. So he got in contact with Austin Hedges, who's one of the best framers in the game, and spent a lot of time in the offseason working with Austin Hedges, who is with Cleveland. So they may be facing off with one another in the next series. But that's who he is, on his own, connecting with somebody who he thought could help him frame, and it worked tremendously, helped lead to his Platinum Glove season. But that's just one of the small examples, one of the many examples that has changed him as a player.
And staying on the offense, a guy that is a common topic. It's like, are we putting too much pressure on Julio? It's always the first half of the year. It's like, what is going on with Julio? The second half is he's the best player in baseball. I mean, you look at what he did, as I described earlier. The first player in MLB history with 4 straight 2020 seasons to begin his career. 110 career home runs, 110 career stolen bases. The only player in MLB history to reach each of those marks in their first 4 seasons. I mean, first player in Mariners history to record multiple 30-30 seasons. Obviously, Gerpy had done it. Now he's the only player to do it multiple times. What does Julio bring to this team, this clubhouse? Obviously, there's the production, but speak to what he brings.
Julio had a fantastic season. He is going to finish, I think, 5th or 6th in MVP voting in the American League. Like F4, he's 5th or 6th in the American League. Like, that's the kind of season that Julio just put together. He was tremendously productive again. And even the slow start offensively to begin the season, he's been tremendous in center field defensively. I think he's got a chance at a Gold Glove this year. He was that good defensively in center field. And so even when he was slow out of the gates, that has been there all season long. And it's been needed. Because as we know, the Mariners are a team not with a lot of range defensively. Cal, of course, winning the Platinum Glove, but Julio in center field, a standout defensively for the Mariners. But you think about, and you rattled off a few of the numbers, you think about what Julio has done at this stage of his career. Still a young player, very young player in this game.
24?
Yeah. This is what Hall of Fame careers look like at the beginning stages. When you look at the numbers he's already put on the board at his age. I know that's a big statement, but
no, yeah,
it's true. When you look at already what he's accomplished in this game. And so I always feel like the conversations surrounding him, he's always measured against super high expectations, right? He has super high expectations for himself. Like, I think that's been part of his struggles at times that we've seen, because I feel like, and I think it comes from a great place. He wants to be great. He wants the Mariners to win. And when the Mariners are struggling, he feels like he has to be the one to make that happen. And I think partly what we've seen in the second half is, the Mariners have a really good offense. And I think he has been able to relax a little bit more in the second half, if that makes sense, knowing that he doesn't have to shoulder the load. Just so I feel like Cal doesn't feel like, oh, if I don't hit a homer here, there's no chance. Because, hey, Naylor can do it. Gino can do it. It's just, I think it feels like a different vibe offensively is how I would say it. Because even early in the season, it's like, wow, if Cal or Julio doesn't come through here, or Polanco in the first month, like, is it going to happen? I just think the offensive vibe has changed completely. And Julio brings a ton. Like, he loves the Mariners. He wants to win so bad. He loves Seattle. He loves the fans, the whole thing. And he wants to make this happen for the Mariners. He wants to make a deep run happen. He wants to make a World Series happen. And this isn't something guys just saying as lip service. Like, they believe this about the city and about the fans, because you hear it coming from them from time to time, talking about winning it for Seattle. Like, they're very serious about this. They want to make this happen for the city. They know the history. And a lot of them now have been here for a long time. You think about Cal and Logan and Kirby and JP, like, they've been through it. They've been to postseasons with the Mariners. They've been here long enough to know the history, and they want to make it happen for this city, for Mariner fans.
And then speaking to the past few years, like, obviously this team makes it to, they're coming up, they're debuting in 22. A lot of them, they make it to the postseason. They, get bounced in the ALDS. The following couple seasons, they've missed the playoffs by a game, essentially, the past couple of years. Now they're in the driver's seat this year. They win the division. They have the bye. They're in a spot to where their franchise as a whole is just absolutely stacked. The farm system is primed, ready to go. Their current roster is one of the most deadly in all of baseball. The offense, the pitching staff. I mean, how much does it mean to the players and just the past couple of years with how they transpired by missing out? Has
Yeah.
that shifted some of their mindsets? Have you noticed a difference with some of those guys?
Yeah, they alluded to it, especially on the celebration night, how it was interesting to hear, uh, especially on the two clinch nights in a row, which was pretty unique to hear what they talked about. And missing the postseason by a game 2 years in a row was really hard, right? And there was fuel there, but it was interesting to hear them talk about this year specifically. And clinching the division was a big deal, but very much to a guy, this was just the start of things. Like, they have a true belief about making a deep run this year. And playoffs are hard. Like, it's really hard to win a playoff series, and you never know what's going to happen. But they really do have a belief. They have a team that can make a deep run happen. And I think they're right to believe that. I think the American League's wide open, and you look at the Mariners, they're just really balanced. I think you like where the rotation is at right now, especially with a healthy Wu. I think you like the back end of the bullpen, and I think you like where their offense is at. Like, they have a complete team, especially when you compare it to other teams in the American League. And I was thinking about one of the X factors too, and this kind of gets to your question, is they have a team that when they roll out their lineup in game one, outside of Dom Canzone, every single guy has been in the postseason before. And most of them in multiple years, in multiple series. And you think about that from the rotation too. They have a team that's been there, right? They've experienced what the postseason is like. They've experienced the ups and the downs of the postseason. They are not strangers. I mean, Naylor is a guy that's been there 3 different years, right? Polanco's been there a number of times with Minnesota. A bunch of guys have been there with the Mariners. I just think that is helpful when you get into these kind of situations and these kind of games. Because if you've watched them play out so far, I mean, they're all nail biters, right? I mean, we're talking about it's really hard to score in the postseason. So whether you've watched the Yankees or Red Sox so far, whether you've watched Cleveland or Detroit so far, it's all these one-run, these situations with a couple runners aboard and games on the line. Like, that's what the postseason is from a fan perspective, super stressful and sometimes hard to look at. But I think if you've been there as a player, you know what to expect. That, and like, I can't wait to see Randy Arozarena, who's been one of the best postseason hitters in baseball history. I can't wait to see what that looks like. But I do think it is really helpful that they've all been there.
Now, you just mentioned Randy. I want to throw in a stat. Julio and Randy are the first Seattle teammates with a 25 home run, 25 stolen base season in the same season in club history. And they're the first pair with a 2020 season since King Griffey and Alex Rodriguez did it in back-to-back seasons back in 1998, 1999. I mean, Randy goes from batting fifth to now after the deadline becoming the leadoff hitter. Just the power speed combo that he's been able to provide at the top now. Second year, first full year for Randy and Randy Land. We got one more year with him under contract this next season. What does Randy bring to the table? And you mentioned one of the best postseason hitters in history.
I think he had one of the best seasons a left fielder has ever had in Mariners history. I know left field has not been a stable spot for the Mariners for a long time. And we're talking about the best 2 left fielders, I think, in Mariners history. We're talking Phil Bradley from the 80s and Raul Ibanez. So it's been a while. That's not been a productive spot for the Mariners. And Arozarena was super productive this year for the Mariners. I actually thought he was going to get 30-30 until he kind of slowed down homers in September. Like, he was tracking towards that. I really, especially in the postseason, I really like his skill set at the top of the lineup. I like having a threat at the top in terms of pop. I mean, he clearly has the speed if he gets on base. It's kind of, we talk about the Mariners. Home runs are I think home runs are critical in the postseason, and we see it play out. Like one swing can change games, and the fact the Mariners have 1 through 9 essentially that can pop a homer, I think is pretty big. They can also swipe a bag if needed too, and Randy Rosarena is certainly one of those guys. He'll also lean into a pitch if he needs to. Like, hey, you get hit by a pitch to get a board in the postseason, great. Like anything to get on base, but I think part of Naylor in the middle that has cemented this lineup. Part of that was a Rosarena at the top. I think that has been a real difference maker for the Mariners. And his skill set, I think, can be really handy as the first guy in the postseason. Like he performs under the bright lights. And I think it's great to see him at the top of the lineup for the Mariners. I'm really excited to see what he does in the postseason. Like, I don't assuming that he's going to keep that slug going, I think is probably not realistic. Like he's a top 3 slug guy all time in playoff history. So I think that's I think asking him to continue that is going to be tough, but I think he can have a really productive playoff run.
Now we have to talk about the manager, Dan Wilson. The last time the Mariners won the division, he was a catcher on this team himself. This is his first full season as the manager for the Mariners. What kind of X factor has Dan Wilson brought to this coaching staff? Obviously, other new coaches throughout the staff as well. But first, he becomes the first manager in Mariners history to lead his team to the postseason in his first full season as manager. Just the second manager in club history to lead his team to a division title. The only other, of course, is Lou Piniella.
Yeah, you have to give him credit. Like he was at the helm for a team that won the division, and they haven't done it in a long time. And I guess, I always think the manager position, it's really hard to analyze these days because there's so much that goes into it. So much beyond what we see, like changing a pitcher in the 7th or pinch hitting for a guy in the 8th. Like those are all important things, obviously, like the game decisions. But behind the scenes to me that's where it's all at. It's working with your staff, and it's working with the analysts, and it's getting the right information to the guys in ways they can absorb it. It's you think about a major league clubhouse and you think about all the different places guys are from and different points of their career and different individual goals. You might have a guy that just got to the majors, Cole Young. You might have a guy that's been around forever. You have all these different moving parts in a clubhouse, and you're trying to get everyone moving in the right direction. And I think that especially becomes challenging when things aren't going well. And things weren't going well for the Mariners. And this is where I think you have to give Dan Wilson credit, because things didn't go off the rails. They never actually lost their playoff spot. It got very close to within a half game in those 2 tough trips, right? But they never surrendered their playoff spot. And then things turned on a dime. They go on this ridiculous run and they claim the division. But I think you have to give leadership credit when things like that happen. As much as they struggled during those 2 trips, they figured it out and they found a way to make it happen. So I think Dan gets credit for that.
And he led the Mariners to the 9th 90-plus win season in franchise history. And which, an interesting stat, finished the season with the highest winning percentage, 566 of any manager in Mariners history. Yeah, it's been interesting to see kind of the differences in prior years in the philosophy. And I wish we could have more cameras inside that clubhouse, hearing some of the conversations that he has with the team to hear exactly what he's saying. But kind of speaking to the Mariners bullpen and their ability to lock down games. Part of this goes into the coaching of managing, when to pull guys out of the rotation, bring in the bullpen guy. But when leading after 7 innings, the Mariners are 70-3 this year. When leading after 8 innings, they are 75-3. That just speaks to if the Mariners can get into the 7th inning or past the 7th inning with the lead, they're going to win the game because of how good this bullpen has been, because of Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, Bizarro, you mentioned already, Can you talk to this bullpen and their ability to just shut the door?
Yeah, their back four are rock solid, which in a playoff series is huge, especially with the days off. You think about, we talked about Logan Gilbert starting. You think about the dominance he has showed in 5 innings at a time. Hey, 5 innings of dominant baseball from a starter in the playoffs, it gets you there because the Mariners can hand it off to the next 4 and close out the game. And Munoz, it speaks for himself, the season that he's having. It's hard to find closers that are consistent, right? We know the ones who are because they're the names in baseball. And Munoz is one of those guys now. He's been super consistent as a back end guy and now the closer for the Mariners. It's just really hard to hit. I mean, that's the thing. The stuff is filthy. The slider, if you talk about some of the single best pitchers in baseball, the Munoz slider is in that conversation. It's one of the single best pitches in the game. Brash's return this year has been everything. Yeah, I said it so many times. If Brash doesn't get hurt last year, I think they make the playoffs. And we've seen why I made that statement this year, because we've seen it time after time after time. When you need a strikeout late in the ball game, or there's a sticky situation late in the ball game, he gets you out of it. He's been invaluable to the Mariners. And another guy who probably doesn't get as much attention as he should is Gabe Spire, who's one of the best left-handed relievers in baseball. And maybe I don't have to qualify. Maybe you can just say one of the best relievers in baseball. He's had a phenomenal year. And part of that is he just doesn't get lefties out. He gets righties out as well. One of my favorite moments of the season was in Houston in a big spot where he was facing Walker. And he just blew him down on 397s. Just 1, 2, 3. Down he goes. And to me, that's it. That's what Spire has been all season. His bounce back this year has been phenomenal. And it's been exactly what the Mariners needed. And Bizzardo as well, who's just taking the ball constantly 1, 2, 3 days in a row, multi-innings, any role. First one out of the bullpen, extra innings. It has not mattered. And especially lately, he's been phenomenal for the Mariners. So I really think in postseason baseball, you need a strong bullpen. You need a core 4, and they have that, which is huge.
Gabe Spire made a team high 76 appearances, going 4-3, 24 holds, 2.61 ERA, 82 strikeouts to 11 walks, a 0.87 whip, holding opponents to a 192 average. And Spire actually led major league relievers in strikeout to walk ratio with 7.45. Yes.
So I was just talking about this during the Dodgers series. I don't have it in front of me. Maybe you can pull it up. But his home splits, his strikeout to walk ratio at home, I've never seen anything like it before. It's something like 52 strikeouts to 2 walks at T-Mobile Park this year. That is unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Yeah, I might not have that perfectly, but it's right around there. Yeah. Yeah, it's worth pulling up because it's amazing.
Yeah, okay. So, oh my word. Yeah, so 54 strikeouts to 2 walks at home.
Yes.
Which is a 27, obviously, strikeout to walk ratio. He's got a strikeouts per 9 in Seattle of 14.4. On the road, he has an 8.9 strikeouts per 9 and a strikeout to walk ratio of 3.11. And you look at, he has more innings pitched in Seattle than he does on the road. He's a 27 strikeout to walk ratio. That's absurd.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that before. Just dominant, but especially at home.
Absolutely. So wrapping things up, kind of landing the plane here, heading into this weekend, what is one big thing that you're looking for in this first series in the ALDS?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that one thing you want to see is strong starts from I'm assuming Kirby and Gilbert. And it's not the situations where this is different than the regular season. Like you're not asking for 7 innings. Like you'd rather have 5 dominant innings with zeros on the board than 7 innings of 4-run ball, right? So I just think you want Kirby coming out breathing fire. and you want Gilbert coming out and just being nasty, throwing the splitter, right? Because I think that sets the tone for the whole thing. Because it's funny how the year has played out. Like the rotation last year was amazing, and this year it was, they had their ups and downs. It was unsteady. We know why. Injuries, everything else. There was a lot of time missed. But now you look at it, and maybe it'll turn out to be a blessing in disguise, because you go into the postseason, there's no restraints on Gilbert or Kirby or Castillo for that matter. Like, they weren't over 200 innings thrown, right? And you just let them go. And hopefully they capture. We know how good they can be. They've both been all-stars. They've both been Cy Young contenders. And they've shown glimpses of that here down the stretch. And if they can be those guys, Mariners are going to be really tough to beat in the postseason, I think.
Gary, really appreciate your time. Thanks for hopping on. It's going to be an amazing week. It's going to be electric, and we'll have to have you on throughout the postseason.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, hopefully there's a nice long run. We'll do this all October.
There we go.